Hello, and welcome to the next review on Foos Entertainment. Give me a second here. Getting ready for work. Always need my energy, old men and stuff, you know, that sort of thing. Well, we have come to the end. I'll be reviewing Jigsaw, the latest in the Saw series, and hopefully the last. Although I will have to say, this one actually made up for the last two movies. Definitely a much better film than Saw 6 and Saw the Final Chapter. I think what works about this movie is it just has a different feel for a Saw movie. There's a lot more really cool stuff going on, in my opinion. I especially like how they actually has so many twists in the movie. They had no idea who was who, what was going on a lot of the time. Something else I can kind of point out that's very interesting about this movie is the specs of the film. Every Saw movie, from the first to the final chapter, were always presented in 178 by 1 widescreen with a Dolby Digital 5.1 track until the third film, in which they actually had that as well as a DTS track. This is the very first of the Saw movies that had actually been recorded with a 235 by 1 widescreen frame like this video, and was presented with a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Very different. It makes it stand out from the previous 7 films. Not to mention the film still has that over digital look, but it looks more like they took their time to kind of make it look as more Hollywood production-like movie instead of being an overly digital movie. It's the first film in the series that kind of does that. All the other movies have been overly digital and either a warm or cool temp. Well, the premise of the movie. The game starts again when a snitch is demanding the presence of a senior detective, and he has a dead man's switch in his hand, and once he sets it off, it sets in motion a game, a Jigsaw game. So he does, and we find ourselves coming across 7 subjects who are undergoing a game in which they have to repent and confess their sins that they have done. They go through a series of Jigsaw tests and challenges, where 2 are left alive at the end. What I find interesting about this movie is the subjects. You do not feel any sympathy for the subjects. Once you learn what their sins are, you have no problem with them being killed. I know that sounds evil coming from me and stuff like that, because I don't seem like a dark individual, but I found that kind of more satisfying. Something in these Saw films that's very interesting is all these people kind of have done bad things, but this right here, the people in this one, they really take the cake. They did a lot of really bad things. Like one of them was a drug addict who stole $3.25 or some shit like that from some woman who was suffering from asthma, and may have had a panic attack, and she pretty much died from gasping for air. And none of it would have happened if she wasn't a purse snatcher and Yeah, you don't really feel a whole too much remorse for that person dying. There's another one that willfully sold a faulty engine to Jigsaw's nephew in a motorcycle that cost him his life. You don't feel so sad for that guy when he dies. Another one would be one that, you know, was a party animal, and he basically cost his best friend's lives, and then would do it again and again, and always find a way to have it all covered up and get away with it. A woman who couldn't handle her newborn baby crying, that she actually went ahead and suffocated her baby to death, and then blamed it on her husband and had him arrested for accidentally killing their child. Yeah, you don't really feel too sad about these people dying. Meanwhile, you have this coroner, forensic scientist, who was basically looking at the bodies of the victims who have failed their tests. They kind of, like a cat and mouse game, get fed to the authorities after each test. And then by the end of the movie, we find out it was all about revenge and legacy. Because the lead forensic scientist and coroner is actually Jigsaw's greatest disciple. And these test subjects that we have been experiencing were actually Jigsaw's first test subjects when he started his work before Saw Part 1. And that the snitch, the dead man switch, was this coroner's, our forensic scientist's wife's murderer. Sorry, the dog's being a little erratic here. He wants to get petted. But basically, he blames this senior detective who was called to the scene because he would actually go ahead and cover up crimes. He would kill people to get convictions, all sorts of really bad things. And all this was to get back at him and to get revenge for the death of his wife. And his little famous line is, "I speak for the dead." And yeah, that's pretty much the story of Jigsaw. The short version of it, that is. There's a lot more to it, but watch the movie. Now, audio video quality, like I said, this one is the only Saw movie in the entire franchise that's in 235:1 widescreen, which is very, very, very different from the 178:1 wide frame that we've been experiencing from the very beginning. The Dolby Atmos track is actually pretty freaking intense in this movie. Lots of good stuff going on in the Dolby Atmos track. So overall, a very solid watch. And that's pretty much all to say about Jigsaw. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Like this review? Did you not like this review? As always, share this video, subscribe if you like, check on me time to time. But before I actually call it done for this review, I did say I was going to expose the next franchise. Now keep in mind, before I expose this, not many people in the United States of America actually have this because it was very, very limited. Like I said, when I did the Saw 5 review, before doing my acting talents teasing this franchise, if you blink too freaking fast, you probably would have missed this box set. And here we go. Yes. This one. This is the limited edition Hellraiser Scarlet Box. Lots of good gems in this one. So I'll be really enjoying showcasing this box set and talking about these movies. And that's pretty much the next franchise. Or should I say, unseen pleasures. Well, I'll see you guys next time.